So we are going to be reviewing The Smashing Machine, which is currently in theaters. It was released in theaters on October 3rd, 2025. And of course, we're going to do a non-spoiler review followed by a spoiler review. When we switch around to spoilers, I'll play a clip from the trailer. If you want to navigate around that, check the show notes for timestamps. Once again, those show notes are at obsessiveviewer.com/OV489. So the premise of The Smashing Machine, according to IMDb, is the story of mixed martial arts and UFC champion Mark Kerr. This movie was written and directed by Benny Safdie, and the cast includes Dwayne Johnson, Ryan Bader, and Emily Blunt. So, Sam, before we get started, I want to ask you: did you have any foreknowledge of the story of Mark Kerr or his history, or did you know anything about him before watching this movie?
I had no clue who Mark Kerr was. I had never seen the documentary, which has the same title. I've read a few reviews, including Evans at Midwest Film Journal, that say the movie resembles the documentary pretty closely, almost to the point of like shot for shot recreation. Obviously, I can't speak to that. I didn't get a chance to watch the documentary before watching the movie. So I'm just going in, judging it on its own. Obviously I was curious about this movie as Benny Safdie's debut outside of his partnership with his brother, Josh Safdie. There was a lot of buzz around Dwayne Johnson's performance. So that's really the only knowledge I brought to it.
Nice. And I was in the same boat. I did not know much of anything about, or I didn't know anything about Mark Kerr. And that kind of, that world is completely foreign to me. Like, I don't know anything about, anything really, but I don't know anything about, professional, fighting, MMA, UFC, all of that. So having said that, I had also heard that about the documentary being very close to it, and it being very close to the documentary. The documentary came out in 2002, I believe. And I am really kind of thankful to myself, for not, seeing the documentary beforehand, because that created in me this sense of nervousness throughout it, because the energy of the movie is really interesting in the way that it shows him as kind of a soft, tender person, but there's like that rage that kind of comes out in certain points, and there's the violence of the fighting and everything. Like, because I didn't know anything about the backstory, I was kind of bracing myself for, a potential, a potential sort of movie. And I won't say whether or not we got that, but it was really something. I was really glad that I didn't, that I didn't know anything about the story going into it. Yeah. So did you feel that way, or did you regret not seeing the documentary beforehand?
No, I'm really glad I didn't watch it, because I think I would have been looking for similarities, just based on what I read. But and yeah, it's the tone is interesting, because Mark Kerr is interesting in the sense that he's kind of unpredictable as a character. He has the body of a Hulk, but the spirit of such a kind of teddy bear.
Yeah,
he's like oddly gentle in the way he interacts with people for the most part.
Mhm.
And he seems to be putting on kind of a facade of like extreme politeness,
Mhm.
and sort of like putting on a bit of a performance. And I agree, the movie creates this strong sense of anxiety surrounding when he's going to actually match his kind of exterior hulking nature, if that makes
Mhm.
sense. Like, um he seems like he's kind of like ready to explode,
Mhm.
the sort of the way his body has like, uh, I, I I'm glad I didn't see the documentary portrait of him in that sense, because then I
Yeah.
would have obviously known what to expect. And
Mhm.
um so I thought Dwayne Johnson, I keep wanting to call him The Rock,
Yeah.
which is interesting. I mean, like, we should mention that you can't help but think about Dwayne Johnson's history as a fighting
Mhm.
persona. And like, unlike Mark Kerr, he was kind of cocky and brash as
Mhm.
the Rock character, um, both in and outside the ring.
Mhm.
But this is really interesting in the sense that, like, Mark Kerr seems very restrained outside of the ring.
Mhm.
Like I said, like he's trying to maintain this politeness, this kind of like
Yeah.
gentle nature. And yeah, that makes for a really interesting character.
Yeah, it's a very interesting juxtaposition with, again, the kind of the more intense drama that unfolds throughout it, that kind of escalates. The tension uh goes a certain way that makes you kind of, at least it was my experience and it sounds like it was yours, that it kind of feels like it's just inching towards something that is maybe a little shocking in some respects. But I won't say whether or not it gets there. There's some pretty interesting developments in the plot throughout it. Um, but I kind of feel like there was, in terms of plot, I don't want to sound like, well, I don't want to sound like a dick, but it kind of felt to me like the movie didn't really know what story it wanted to tell exactly. Like, the movie takes place over the course of 3 years, so 1997 to, 2000 or 1999. Math is hard. So, the opening title card says that this takes place between these 3 years, and throughout it you see like him struggling with performance enhancing drugs and certain like medical things, maybe not even performance enhancing drugs, but he struggles throughout the movie. But it also is kind of divided between that personal struggle plus the exterior struggle of him with his girlfriend Dawn Staples, played by Emily Blunt. And then you get him rising in the ranks of the UFC championship stuff, fighting in Japan, and it kind of just felt to me like the movie wasn't really paying proper attention to each individual part of the story. Um, and it just kind of seemed a little mushed together. So like when the resolution of his personal issues kind of comes out, it's like, okay, cool. That I'm rooting for this character because he is by and large a very gentle person, and he is someone who we kind of can really dig into on an emotional level because he is someone who is defying that outward projection of himself by being this kind of emotionally I don't even know if I would go so far as to say emotionally available, but he is someone who is tender in his emotions through most of the movie. It's something that is like he's working out like problems. He's working out problems instead of going off the cuff or instead of letting tempers flare or anything. He's like trying to get an amicable resolution in any kind of conflict he finds himself in. And that throughout the movie I found very compelling because of, well, the writing and the Rock's performance in it as well, which we'll talk about that. But because the movie is dealing with those like three elements of his story, it just felt like there wasn't enough time spent to like properly, for instance, build up the stakes of him going after the UFC championship or whatever the championship was. Um, like it's told to us throughout like voiceover dialogue that like, oh yeah, this is, this is worth this much. He needs to do this in order to get this much. It's life changing money, and it's like, okay, yeah, you're telling us that, but like make it a little bit more cleaner in terms of the way that we're bringing heading toward that point in the narrative. So I don't know. I felt like that was a little bit of a fault for me. How did you feel about the pacing and all of the word salad I just spewed all over the podcast?
No, I thought you brought up great points. I You talked about the stakes not being as clear as they could be. I found myself wondering, and I don't think this is really a weakness of the movie, but maybe a strength that it had me wondering this, but I just thought, why does he do this exactly? Like
Yeah.
it doesn't really match his personality.
Mm,
He talks about fighting with great eloquence, but the way he fights is very rough and
mhm.
sloppy. Like these guys are basically just punching each other and like kicking each other.
Yes.
I mean, I'm sure fighting fans will get mad at me for saying this, but like it just kind of seems like a glorified street fight. Like they're
Mhm,
just kind of beating the shit out of each other. And it just doesn't really match his restrained nature and like
mhm,
the way he carefully chooses his words
mhm,
he mentions feeling an addiction to the response from the crowd
mhm.
and like the sensation of victory, but like you can get that from other endeavors. Like
Podcasting, for instance.
right, well like why did it have to be fighting?
Yeah.
And I think what's interesting too is that it's kind of in his nature to like let rage out. Like
Mm,
for the most part, the way he deals with his friends and his girlfriend, like I said, he chooses his words carefully. Like he tries to maintain an even keel, but
mhm.
like every once in a while he'll break a door.
Yeah.
Um and I don't know, that's what's interesting to me about it as a character study. It's like
Mhm,
this guy, it's like a portrait of a guy who is constantly trying to restrain himself.
mhm.
And that was kind of, I don't know, that was the biggest strength of the movie for me.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there that is absolutely one of the biggest strengths of the movie for me as well. Um, the that restraint that he has throughout it, like I think my biggest um issue with that is that like all by and large, I think this is a really good emotional character study of Mark Kerr. Like I think it does a really good job of getting us into his perspective, giving us a taste of like what his kind of viewpoint is in all of these situations he finds himself in. Like we're along for the ride. We know how he is internalizing things. We know how he is reacting to things, and it's done very naturally and very tenderly, as I said before. The problem is, as a character study, there's I feel like there's, like, something missing with that. I feel like there's like you said, it should be more about what drives him. Like, what drives him to actually do that? Because I also I don't think we really get a satisfactory answer as to what his main draw is. Like, what makes him do this? What makes him do this particular thing? Um, and I don't need that in a sports movie like this by any stretch. But when the actual character, when the actual, like, out of the rink, uh, uh, it's a rink, right? Yeah. Out of the
Ring.
little, yeah, ring. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Out of the ring persona is so starkly different from, like, what you would expect. I kind of wish that we would have had more of, like, a study of what drives him to do that. Like, there's
Yeah.
voiceover, there's stuff at the beginning that kind of he kind of talks about the, and throughout the movie as well, he talks about, like, the allure of it, the high he gets from it, and I feel like there's maybe something missing. Like, if the point was to show that since he is such a kind of people pleaser, since he's such a empathetic person who is like, at like, in his everyday life is constantly, like, trying to keep the peace or trying to avoid any conflict or trying to stamp down some tempers flaring around him and everything, then, like, make it about that then. Make that be
Hmm.
more clear. I feel like that was a little bit of a missed opportunity, um, or wasn't clearly defined for me, satisfactorily enough. Um, yeah.
Yeah, and I wanted to say I agree with you that it tries to juggle too many things. Like, is this a movie about addiction?
Mm,
Is this a movie about a guy competing with a friend?
mhm.
Is this a movie about a guy competing with his significant other? Like, and that's interesting too. Like, they're constantly arguing, and you get the sense that there's this like unspoken agreement for their life to revolve around his efforts.
Yeah.
It's all about his fighting career, and she has to support that. And
Mm,
at one point he says, just treat me like a man. And
mm,
like, I mean, that's kind of messed up. Like,
yeah,
he doesn't really seem to care about her life, and
mm,
her life is just sort of an inconvenience for him. Really, it takes focus off of him and his career. And um but yeah, I don't know if any of those three subplots really get enough attention.
yeah. And
Yeah.
the movie does kinda try to dovetail those all those things together, and, like, it's a relatively effective, like, climax to the movie, but it also felt like for me, and we'll talk more about that in spoilers, but it felt like to me that it just didn't land with the emotional gut punch that, frankly, Dwayne Johnson's performance w would have gotten us to. Like, I went into this movie, so, here's a little window to my brain. Um, I wasn't terribly excited for this. Frankly, when I saw the images of Dwayne Johnson in the makeup and everything, and like, the look, it and I feel like this is a opinion that a lot of people had. It just felt like it felt like, "Oh, okay, let's do this transformative physical thing and then hope that the acting can get to that level." Like, it
Yeah.
felt like kind of a, I don't know, kind of like a cheap thing of, like, okay, well, we're making this prestige A24 movie, um, but it's got The Rock. Um, let's really get into the makeup effects, and then maybe that'll be the conversations, uh, instead of potentially mediocre performance. those were my expectations. I will say I actually really liked Dwayne Johnson in this movie. I thought his performance was really measured in such a good way that like any time I've seen him in anything, it's always like, oh, he's The Rock. Like he's like I've never seen him do anything that's not his brand. Even Moana, like there's some I guess physicality in the vocal range in those movies that he has to use, but still it's like that's the Rock's voice. That's the Rock. Here I was really kind of just sucked in by his ability to just really showcase that emotional center of the character and that kind of measured tenderness. Third time I'm saying this. Well, actually, fourth or fifth since I talked about the tenderness to her. Anyway, uh, check that out at Heartland, by the way. But yeah, just like that tenderness of the character, navigating different situations. Like for instance, there's a scene where he's non spoilers, but he is upset about the resolution of a fight, and the stakes are huge. But like what he leaves the ring and goes to find the person backstage to calmly like explain like no, this is wrong, this is that. It's like any other person really in that kind of line of work would like cause a scene, like be outraged and everything. It would be a big moment, but it's like measured, and I really like that about him. So I liked The Rock, Dwayne Johnson in this movie. How'd you feel about his performance?
I'm glad you mentioned that scene. That is interesting because you're right. In like a typical prestige fighting movie, you would see the big blow up and like the big dramatic meltdown. But yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, he almost has like a customer service esque sort of interaction with these guys.
Yes.
And it's not the only customer service type interaction he has. Like you see him act that way with doctors, and it's kind of the way he sneakily gets pain medication.
Mhm.
And so I think that's an interesting part of the movie. I agree that the prosthetic makeup use is kind of silly. Like, do we
Yeah.
really need him to have weird eyebrows that
Mhm.
look different than his own? Like, is Mark, I mean, like we said at the beginning, we didn't even know who Mark Kerr was.
Right.
Like, who are they trying to impress with this transformation? Like,
Mhm.
I'm not, I mean, I'm not sure he's like a mainstream figure that everyone knows.
Mhm.
Um, and it's not like there were expectations for this to be a super accurate biopic.
Right.
Um, so I think the makeup was a little weird. But I do think The Rock's performance, I gotta stop calling him The Rock, but I do think he transcends that.
Mhm.
Yeah, the makeup's not necessary because he's emotionally magnetic and you can't take your eyes off of him. And uh I mean, I guess he has some typical like Oscar bait moments,
Yeah.
but they did always feel measured to me. Like there's a scene in a hospital where he's kind of putting on that facade of
Mhm.
seeming like nothing's wrong, and telling this story of uh drug abuse, and
Mhm.
trying to act like he's just doing great, and then he has a meltdown. And I don't know, I think it's a character that you're constantly waiting to see their mask fall off, and
Yeah.
I think Dwayne Johnson did a great job.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up that scene in particular because that scene coupled with the scene where he is kind of trying to try not even necessarily trying to charm his way into getting pain medicine, but like he's doing that customer service thing. Those two scenes are so interesting to me, and it's why I wish that the movie focused more on the struggles with addiction side of the story, because he is so throughout the whole movie, he is so conscious of other people's maybe not even perception of him, but other people's um perception of the situation. And I feel like part of that is maybe also because he's a hulking mass of a human being. So there's this kind of uh what's the word, oh crap, not defense mechanism, but breaking down defenses, where he's like, oh, he's soft spoken, he's talking very gently and kindly to someone, so that the hulking beast in front of them isn't going to be like, it's not barking at him or anything. um so there's that kind of underlying side to the way that he carries himself in those scenes. But I love that, like in the scene where he's trying to get the pain medicine, he's very controlled. He's very centered on the fact that, like, he's explaining the reasoning behind it so clearly and effortlessly, um, that you don't really think of him as like, oh, he's abusing substances, like he's addicted to this. Like, it's such an interesting, like, window into someone who is, abusing a substance and is kind of dependent on it or growing dependent on it. And then you get the scene in the hospital where we have like fallout from his experiences and everything. And as he's talking through it, like you said, putting on this, basically this facade of like, oh, everything's okay. And that's when that like shield goes down. That's when the shield like breaks. And that, like, I wanted that to be the whole movie. Like, I didn't need, I mean, I guess you would need the relationship with Emily Blunt in it for that, but I wish it was just that. Like, and not like this journey through mixed martial arts and championship fights that could lead to a showdown with him and his friend. Like, I don't need that, like I don't need the Rocky story there. I would want the more intense character stuff. That's what spoke to me more. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I'll admit that until the big like championship in the third act of the movie, this was like a 4-star movie for me. And I was really loving it. And then we get to that championship in Japan, and there's like 6 fight sequences.
Yeah.
And it starts feeling really long. And it's
Mhm.
like, I get that maybe the movie's trying to emphasize how much Mark Kerr and Mark Coleman had to kind of wait to see what their fate would be in this competition.
Mhm.
But like, do we need to see them fight like 4 guys each?
Yeah.
Like, that's where it definitely dropped down
Mhm.
in quality for me. And it's frustrating because there's such richer material
Mhm.
this could have explored other than like this boatload of fight sequences. I just, yeah, that was a big disappointment for me.
Absolutely. Like, it becomes a conventional sports movie in those moments, and everything else is just like, it can be considered kind of conventional sports movie stuff with the struggles that he has and everything. But when it gets to those moments, it's like I'm remembering, like, okay, we need to, like, I know it's a true story and everything, but we need to set the expectations that, like, oh, they're going up the ladder and stuff. But because we have those other plot lines that are going throughout the course of the movie, the like, that doesn't become the central thing until like the last act of the movie. And it's like the movie has to play catch up in the script, saying like, oh, by the way, you know this has all led to this, so it's possible that Kerr and Coleman could have to fight each other, and it's all just very much just told to us. It's one of those things where, granted, I still haven't seen the documentary, but and I want to give much more credit to Benny Safdie than I'm about to, but it feels like he's just using the documentary storytelling device as a crutch to write this script. Like, I feel like if he had to follow it closely, or if he followed it as closely as people are saying he did, like, that's fine, but make it make it more cinematic than, like, because otherwise you're just telling us that. Like, I don't know, like, jazz it up a little bit. Um it's just, it should have been a little bit more persistent throughout it. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I heard an interview with him recently where he addressed the nature of kind of recreating the documentary or
Mm,
scenes from the documentary, and he compared it to therapy sessions where
mm,
you kind of reenact events from your life and gain something new from kind of re-experiencing them. Um, and I think that's interesting. It kind of speaks to the nature of biopics too. It's like
mhm.
when we when we take real life and kind of dramatize it, like how does that make us view the real life inspiration differently? And I mean, I think that's interesting, like theoretically. I can't totally speak to it because I haven't seen the documentary, but it also feels like a bit of a cop out. It's like, well, I'll take these scenes from the documentary and just kind of recreate them and hope that something is gained from that.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, again, like maybe that's an unfair judgment, but if he was recreating the build up to that fight between or a possible fight between
Mm,
Kerr and Coleman, I just didn't think there was a lot there.
yeah.
I didn't really think there was much tension between them. Like they both just kind of seemed fine with it, and like that's not terribly cinematic. So
Right. Oh, absolutely. Like, there's some comic elements to it in a couple of points in that, but other than that, it just felt very and like very much like an afterthought. And I feel like because of that, the kind of climactic moment of it didn't really land with the weight that it should have, because of that. But we'll talk in more detail on spoilers here in a bit. But I did want to mention before we go to spoilers, um, I wanted to touch on just the overall look of the movie. It's set in the late 90s. It is filmed in a way that looks like it is a grainy, like, like grainy, not even film, but like digital artifact film from like 30 years ago or 25 plus years ago. And I found that to be really interesting, for two reasons. One, it felt very, that combined with like the handheld shots, the kind of candid positioning of the camera felt very candid and very private, and that speaks very much to Benny Safdie's point about it being a therapy session sort of aesthetic. So that was really great at delivering this emotional like insight into the character and the plot and everything. I thought that was really well done. um, the other thing I want to mention about the overall look of it is that I don't know if it's me being in denial about how everything looked back then, but like, I mean, I'm 39 years old. I was alive back then. I knew I was conscious back then. Like, it felt like the movie was almost like, not set in the late 90s. It felt like it was like an 80s, like late 80s sort of look in terms of the design, like the interior decorations and the fashion and and the vehicles and everything, and not even like in the Japan scenes, but like in the, you know, in Phoenix, when they're in Phoenix and everything, it just felt very much like more like late 80s rather than late 90s, which is not a criticism or anything. I just thought that that was interesting and that I'm old as fuck.
Yeah, I know what you mean. There's one sequence near the very beginning where it's like video footage of Mark Kerr, and it does feel just incredibly old.
Mhm.
Um like it's kind of blurry and like staticky, and the sound sucks, and you do wonder, like, well, this was 97, like
Yeah.
surely, like, technology wasn't that bad, was it?
Right.
Um, but I mean, I don't know. Maybe it was kind of exaggerated to make it, seem longer ago.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it is interesting visually. Um, I mean, I don't think in terms of like judging this as Benny Safdie's directorial debut apart from his brother, like
Mhm.
I don't know if I was really all that surprised. I mean, I think Good Time and Uncut Gems are just more interesting aesthetically and tonally.
Mhm.
But I will mention there is one scene near the end. I won't spoil anything, but it's kind of like a big melodramatic, emotional scene. And
Mhm.
like there's kind of sappy music in the background, and like the clothes that Mark Kerr is wearing, like his outfit is kind of ridiculous and like
Yeah.
really flashy, and like it kind of felt like an old school sort of 80s romantic drama. um
Yes.
I don't know if that was, stylistically intentional, but I thought that was really interesting.
Mhm.
um yeah, I don't really know where I'm going with any of
Mhm.
that. I guess that's just my response to
Yeah.
your thoughts on the style.
Yeah, I would say, like, overall, it was aesthetically pleasing, like, it looked good. It was just kind of weird in terms of the almost ambiguity of the setting, even though we know it's in the late '90s, it just felt, like, older. And the jokey thing that I'll say is that while I was in the theater, I just kept muttering, like, I thought I watched VHS Halloween last week." Um, but check out my review of VHS Halloween last week on the podcast. But anyway, yeah, I do think it's an interesting swing in terms of just depicting it that way, showing it that way. It looks very graded and aged in a very aesthetically pleasing way. Like the cinematography is really good. Um, the final thing before we go to spoilers, I want to circle back and talk about the fighting, the actual sequences that the choreography of that, the way that it's shot, I thought was like, despite that plot line being less interesting to me than the personal stuff, um, anytime we see him in the ring or anyone in the ring doing that style of fighting, I was like, it was I was struggling to figure out, like, how do people do that? Like, how is that possible? Like, and why is this a spectator sport? Like, I understand and respect the skill involved, but like, there were times in this movie where I remembered when I was a kid, like a few years before this movie set, where I was really into Power Rangers and I was begging my mom and dad to get me karate lessons. And I went to one karate lesson and was like, this isn't for me. And just like, I was thinking, like, that is such an interesting discipline. Like, not necessarily just karate, but just like martial arts. Like, it's just so weird to think, like, you're training to when you're doing like sport stuff like this, you're training to inflict pain on another person. It's like it's weird. But that's my little kind of rabbit hole tangent there. But um, I thought it was visually just the choreography and the way that those sequences were shot were just brutal, and really. cool to see.
Yeah, I do think they emphasize the like bizarre nature of the sport. Like
Mm,
these guys start gushing blood from their faces almost immediately.
yeah.
Because like I said, I mean, these are basically glorified street fights. Like,
Mm,
you can talk about the skill and sort of like choreography involved, but they're just kind of punching the shit out of each other.
yeah.
It's weird. It's odd.
It is very weird, and that's another thing that I kind of wish was a little bit more explored in it. But um, to kind of assuage the listener from sending hate mail, like I understand, like it's mixed martial arts, like it's in the title, like they're different martial arts styles and everything, and I do wish that was explored more, like the different styles and everything. But I don't know, that's not what this movie was. But yeah, it does have that. Like there are scenes where he's training. There are a few scenes where he's training. Like one in particular that I remember is him like doing one move over and over again in a straight line, and it's like a pretty brief clip. But like I was just like that made me think like, oh my god, like they need to be training, like they need to be thinking on their feet, and they need to make these decisions very quickly, and they need to figure out like how to respond to things and how to like fight basically, and use the right tactic and everything. And it's really uh impressive the amount of work that goes into it, I guess. But yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Would you like to go into spoilers for the Smashing Machine? I feel like we don't really need to talk that much about spoilers, but we should probably talk about the more specifics of the plot and everything. Are you ready for spoilers for the Smashing Machine?
Yeah, there's a few scenes I'd like to talk about.
Nice. All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and go into spoilers. Before we do that, though, Sam, would you mind telling us what you rated this on Letterboxd?
I went with 3.5 out of 5 stars. I
Nice.
feel good about that. I feel like it represents my feelings pretty well.
Same here. I rated it 3.5 stars. It was very much like you said, it was teetering between 3.5 and 4 stars throughout the movie, basically. But yeah, I landed on 3.5. So we'll talk in more detail as to why here in the spoiler section in a second. But I do want to say, if you want to navigate around spoilers, check the show notes for timestamps. I'm going to play a clip from the trailer. When we come back, we're going to be spoiling the Smashing Machine.
Probably looking at my eyes.
How did that happen?
Well, have you ever heard of the Ultimate Fighting Championship, the UFC?
That's the bloody thing they're trying to ban.
This guy is the best he has ever seen.
Do you hate each other when you fight?
Absolutely not.
How do you know Mark Kerr? Oh, we go way back.
All right, so spoilers on for the Smashing Machine. Sam, where would you like to begin with the spoiler talk on the Smashing Machine?
If you don't mind, because it's the freshest thing in my mind right now, I'd like to talk about a scene with Mark Kerr's trainer, where they're training, and then the trainer, I think his name is Boss Rutan, gets hurt, and Mark gives him some pain medication, and it's after he's gotten clean and gone through rehab. He gives him an injection of some opiate, and it's a really strange but interesting scene because the guy's in excruciating pain, and this injection relieves him within just a few seconds. And it's presented as kind of a like a heroic act on Kerr's part. And the trainer says something like, This makes me feel like a plant. Like he's describing the sort of euphoria he feels,
Mhm.
and Mark laughs about it. It's really weird though. It's like
Yes.
it's like watching a recovering alcoholic watching someone else drink, seeing them enjoy it, and then like vicariously enjoying their enjoyment. I thought that was
Yes.
bizarre, and I don't totally know what to make of it.
I'm so glad that you brought that up because I agree completely. That is a weird scene. Like it it's funny, the comparison that I make is to Walk Hard. Like the whole movie is like you don't want none of this shit. And then when he gets to like weed, he's like, "Oh yeah, there's no hangover or anything. Like there's no way to get overdose on it or anything. It's actually really good." Like it just felt like that scene, and like it felt weirdly out of place because again, those three like concurrent plot lines with his relationship, his pain, his opioid addiction, and his potential rivalry with Coleman, um, they don't they aren't satisfactorily built out. And because of that, this weird anomaly of a scene in this movie really stands out because it feels like a very dramatic moment, obviously, given the state of what's going on in the scene, but it feels like a very dramatic emotional moment because it's him turning to, like, the dragon he's chased, and it's him turning to that as well as him essentially, potentially enabling someone else to be addicted to it and stuff, and it's like it's kinda just discarded after that. It's like it's played off as like a like, "Oh, yeah, plant." It's like it's weird. It's weird. It's kind of like if you go back in time to when, like, we were kids and we would have, like, DARE officers come in, it would be like it would be like that, like the DARE officer being like, "Yeah, drugs are terrible and stuff, but oh my god, the high you get from it, man, it's so fucking good." Like, it's really weird, and I don't know, it didn't sit well with me either. Um,
Yeah, like
yeah.
I guess the only clear thing I thought it was trying to get you to walk away with was the sense that okay, Mark has, you know, gained control over this.
Yeah.
He throws the vials of medicine away.
Mhm.
Um, but clearly these guys shouldn't be using this stuff at all.
Right.
So, like, what is it really suggesting? Like, what is the alternative to this
Mhm.
medicine when they are in excruciating pain?
Yeah.
It's just, yeah, it's like the movie just kind of drops this bomb on you and
Mhm.
like doesn't do anything with it.
Yeah. It feels like, it feels a little bit like, maybe it's because of the time, like, because it's like, at that point, it's like 98, 99. I don't I wasn't too plugged in with like the opioid crisis or anything at the time. But maybe it's supposed to be like true to the era that it's representing in the movie. But even if that's the case, like hindsight is a thing. Like it doesn't need to be depicted that way. It's it was weird. It was definitely weird. And I am gonna go out on a limb and I'm gonna make some broad statements that are just my own conjecture, my own, not even opinion, but just like my own, like based on nothing. But we said at the beginning of this review that neither of us knew anything about Mark Kerr. So literally the entire movie, I'm wondering, is this gonna turn into like a tragedy of him not overcoming his abuse problems and succumbing to it in some way? Is it going to turn into like a horrifying like murder suicide thing? Is it going to turn into something where he dies in the ring? Or like I was so convinced like it was leading toward him dying in some way. But part of me thinks, and this is a very cynical thing based on nothing, is that I wonder if the fact that the real Mark Kerr, presumably having a lot to do with this movie, he appears in the movie at the end. I wonder if him being involved in such a way, in whatever capacity, affected how the story is told. In that, like, maybe they didn't want to go into like more detail about his addiction to pain medicine. Maybe they didn't want to. Maybe they didn't want to really go into like the implications of that scene. Maybe they just wanted to show him as like this is the moment that he like really overcame it and everything. But it's also like it should be more of a dramatic thing for him in terms of like the morality of it. But I'm wondering if the real Mark Kerr being close enough to the production to be in the movie affected the way that the dramatic depiction of Mark Kerr was dramatized. Yeah, but again, that's a
Yeah.
cynical viewpoint.
No, I mean, I think that's a great point because the way he overcomes his addiction does seem pretty neat and tidy. Like
Mhm.
he goes to a 21-day rehab treatment center, and after that, has a sponsor who he
Mhm.
calls when he's struggling. And like, we never see him relapse.
Yeah.
He has that weird moment with his trainer in which he's able to control himself around these substances.
Mhm.
And yeah, it's just kind of like wrapped up very cleanly.
Mhm.
And you, there is a suggestion that his girlfriend um, could become a conflict for him and
Mhm.
maybe an enabler, but we never see that go terribly far.
Mhm.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
she has a quite a breakdown near the
Right.
end, in which she threatens, or seems like she's about to commit suicide a couple of times
Yeah.
within a pretty short um, time span. But then that's kind of dropped too.
Yeah. That
Like,
was the that was the other thing I was wondering was that like, and again, this is a very cynical thing that's just based on my perception from what I saw in the movie and everything, but like there's the end like title card shows that like, oh, after she got out of like the hospital and she was released and everything, they got married 10 days later and they were married for 6 years and they have a son. And like I was fixated on they were married for 6 years because again, very cynical of me, very much not informed on anything about, the real life people, but just from what I saw in this movie, I kind of thought I wonder if the real Dawn Staples had any input. I wonder what terms she's on with the real Mark Kerr because the movie kind of shifts quite a bit into her not being like her being unstable and a thorn in the side of Mark Kerr. Like the whole big blow up is because he doesn't want her to go to Japan. Um, in the way the movie presents it, it's kind of rightfully so because she like caused like she their not she but like their argument caused like a failure in the ring or whatever like that like it affected him So it makes sense. Like the logic follows that, he wouldn't want her to be there. But like the confrontation between them about it is again like it's strongly written, strongly enough written because it's keying into Mark Kerr being someone who is trying to be amicable in these high intense situations. But it kind of just felt like that coupled with her complaining to her friend that we see for one scene, um, the birthday girl, her complaining like, "Oh, he's not fun anymore," and her friend's like, "Well, when people get sober, they're not fun anymore." It's like it seems like the movie was like trying to push her into like a villain role to bring us into that last thing. So I was like thinking, man, when it showed that they were only married for 6 years, it's like, I get it. And I wonder if that's why this movie is kind of skewing negative to her, whereas elsewhere we've got Mark Kerr, who is on screen in the movie at the end. We have his depiction in the movie being like, "Oh, I went to a 21-day rehab clinic. I'm clean. Oh, I was able to use this this substance that I was addicted to in order to help a friend and then throw it away because I'm over it." Like it seemed very not easy, but it seemed a little bit uh, a little bit careful in the depiction of Mark Kerr in relation to Don Staples as well.
Yeah, and what's interesting about that melodramatic scene near the end that I mentioned is that you get like tiny hints that maybe he's not as stable as he says he is. Like
Mhm.
he seems to be drinking a beer.
I was
Um,
gonna mention that too. That was kind of interesting because it seems like, once he gets clean, like that would be something that he would stay away from as well, but I don't know.
yeah, and I think she even says something like she makes a little jab about it. I don't remember exactly what she says, but
Mm,
something about his program not being as strict as he says it is,
yeah.
and you see in the background there's a table with like liquor bottles and wine
Mhm,
bottles, and they are having a party, but it does make you wonder, like, are they heavy drinkers still?
mhm.
And there's a few things that are underdeveloped, like um at one point she mentions to his friend and trainer Mark Coleman that like they went out drinking, but like maybe we
Oh, yeah.
should see that. Like
Yeah.
maybe we should see what Mark is like in
Mhm.
those situations. Like
Yeah.
why don't we see that? Um and there's another weird scene where like he seems to be high
Mm.
and like he looks really creepy, like he has this like dead-eyed stare, and he seems
Yeah.
like he's mad at her for no obvious reason, and it's like very tense and uncomfortable and like menacing, but that's not explored very thoroughly.
Mhm.
um I don't know, yeah, all of that felt kind of half baked to me.
Absolutely, and also the call that she makes to Coleman when she's like, I couldn't wake him up. I couldn't wake him up or anything." And, like, that was a little bit of a, like, whiplash for me because it's leading to, like, the big come to Jesus moment for him. Like, this is a pivotal moment in his story, and we get a phone call after the fact that, frankly, I didn't really clock, like, where she was, where he was, or where Coleman was. So when he's like, "I'll get on the next plane," I was like, "Oh, they're not in the same city. Okay, so is he dying?" Like, because again, I didn't know anything about Mark Kerr, so, the whole movie, I'm thinking, like, he's gonna drop dead. He's gonna die right now. Um, and, like, I didn't know what the deal was, and it felt like the movie was avoiding, and maybe this is purposeful, but avoiding trying to do anything that would be construed as like melodramatic things. Maybe just saving it for that big fight at the end so that it can really build up all of that. But the trade-off of that is we don't actually see the big pivotal moments of his journey, and we're just told about it. And like, I mean, come on, Benny. That's screenwriting 101. Show don't tell. Like it's I don't understand the logic behind it. So,
Yeah, that's a great point. It feels very safe.
mhm,
Like I imagine maybe the documentary shows the aftermath of his
mhm,
overdose and
yeah.
we get the phone call and everything. Why not try to dramatize his overdose?
Yeah.
I mean,
Ha
like
yeah.
I get why Benny Safdie would feel uncomfortable about showing
Mhm,
a moment that he doesn't totally have inside knowledge of, but
mhm,
like why not go for it? Like I don't
yeah.
it would have made his abuse a little stronger.
Mhm,
It would have added a little more weight to that breakdown in the hospital.
mhm,
Um, because we don't really, I mean, it's hard to get a sense that someone's life is on the line when you only hear about it through a
mhm.
phone call.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Um, I don't know. Yeah, why didn't it try to kind of make those moments a little more cinematic?
I agree. Yep. Um, and then the other thing I wanted to talk about was the competition thing. Like we said in non spoilers, it does feel very kind of afterthoughty. It feels like kind of like okay, well, we need to have like we need to have like a tournament thing, which is true to life and everything, fine. But the way that it's done just felt like it was undercooked. But the I feel like there's a failing in this movie where the movie tries to dovetail all of the things together. He has these it's like after I think it's either after the fact or no, it's when he's like being like beaten. He's seen these flashes from the movie of all of the things that have happened, like his substance abuse, Dawn, uh, Coleman, and I feel like the movie is trying to communicate that like this is the moment where he realizes that winning isn't everything. He doesn't need to do this to be a man. Uh, he can overcome his personal things without sacrificing his life or his social life or whatever personal life to attain this belt. And it's like, yeah, those are interesting things, but it feels like the movie doesn't build to that in a meaningful way. So like when we see that, it's like for me, it was like, oh, that's where the movie was leading me into. Okay, sure, fine, okay, and it just felt like very underserved. How'd you feel about it?
Totally agree. I There's a moment that seems like it's supposed to be a cathartic culmination of all of that, where he takes a shower after
Yeah.
losing the fight and he ends up laughing, and
Mhm.
it's like, what are we supposed to feel exactly here? Like I that didn't seem clear to me, and like it's always a bad sign when the movie has to remind you of the things that happened. Like
Mhm.
flashbacks are kind of weak to me, especially like a big sequence of them. Like
Mhm.
remember all of these things that happened.
Right.
I just it's like, yeah, we just saw her put a gun to her head like 10 minutes
Mhm.
ago. Like, do we really need a reminder of that? Um I don't know. Yeah, that felt kind of like weak and thrown together to me.
Yeah.
Um,
And
yeah.
it's really funny because, again, I did not know anything about Mark Kerr going into this movie. So when in a weird way, when he gets in the shower and he's turning them on and stuff, I'm like, "Oh, is he gonna kill himself?" Like, I didn't know, like, where it was going there. And, like, the laughing and smiling, like, it's a cathartic moment for him, and well, fine, yeah, but it didn't really resonate with me the way that it was supposed to, and that's a shame. Um, yeah, it's really perplexing to me because I feel like Benny Safdie, it's a weird case of, like, I feel like he should know better. Um, like, I don't know where the wheels were coming off in the production of this and everything. Because it doesn't feel like something that would be, a completely thought out thing.
Yeah, well, it's weird to view this in comparison to like Uncut Gems, which
Mhm,
has such a more complex central character and
mhm,
an ending that's so much bolder. Like, I mean,
yeah,
I get that, obviously this based on a true story, but like, uh, this didn't leave me with that feeling that there was like much to it in the end.
yeah,
Um, I don't like going back to the shower moment. Like, I didn't feel like a big lesson was being learned on Mark's
mhm,
part. Like, it
yeah.
felt kind of random and not really like an earned catharsis.
Yeah, what I will say for that is it felt like maybe the intention was to show that, like, oh, he knows now that, like, losing isn't everything. Like, he's not running around trying to, like, explain, like, no, 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 it wasn't real. Like, this isn't right. Like, this is against the rules and everything. Do it a no contest thing. Instead, it's like, okay, I'm just accepting what it was. Like, I couldn't move, and so, like, fine, but I don't know. It just felt uh, undercooked. Yeah.
well, and now his friend gets to win,
Yeah.
and you almost get the sense that like it's a surefire thing, and
Mhm.
like he's giving his friend the victory.
Yeah. The
And
announcer even said that, like Mark Kerr did Coleman a favor by by basically losing and stuff. It's like, okay, well, that's like this weird, like, backhanded thing. It's like, well, okay, does that mean that Mark Coleman isn't like truly like the champion
right.
because Mark Kerr may have like taken a dive? Like, it's weird. It's a weird statement to make.
Yeah, and it's like, I mean, to hell with the other fighter, I guess. Like,
Yeah.
like he just has no chance now.
Right.
I that was weird to me, and like I don't think it's developed well enough. I was gonna say maybe that's a commentary on like all of these people kind of playing second fiddle to Mark, like
Mm.
his friend, his girlfriend, they're all kind of destined to be in his shadow. But like I don't even know if that theme of the movie is developed well enough for that to be the point it's making.
Yeah, I completely agree. Um, Anything else we can talk about in spoilers for The Smashing Machine?
I guess I want to emphasize that I did like this movie.
I did
Um,
too.
I
Yeah.
liked it a lot, actually. I just like these criticisms aren't, you know, I still enjoyed watching it.
Yeah, they're constructive criticisms.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's nothing that, like, killed the movie for me by any stretch, and the movie that it reminded me of a little bit, and this is a cheap comparison, but it reminded me of a couple of years ago, The Iron Claw with
Hmm.
Zac Efron, and, like, I liked this a lot more than the Iron Claw. Like, and they both have very similar sort of issues in that they're both telling these stories about real people, and it seems like it's glossing over or skipping over entirely like segments of the story, perhaps because the subject is involved with the production in some capacity. But like, I felt like this was a better made movie despite those flaws, and a more complete movie than The Iron Claw was for me. So that's a feather in the cap of the Smashing Machine for me.
Yeah, I think that's a good comparison. I liked it. Obviously it has some flaws. I still found it compelling to watch. I look forward to Dwayne Johnson going into more dramatic roles.
Yeah. It would be interesting to see where he goes from here. If he continues down this path when he doesn't win an Oscar, is he going to continue pursuing it? What other crazy prosthetics is he going to subject himself to? We'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I think that will just about do it for our review of the Smashing Machine. We both rated it 3.5 stars. Is that going to change at all from our conversation, or is it still going to be that for you?
I'm pretty secure in my rating.
Me too. I think it'll stay at 3.5 for me as well. Um, yeah, so that'll do it for our feature review. Yeah, check the show notes for timestamps, all of that. Sam, you still good for our secondary review?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, so that is our review of the Smashing Machine.
Crossing the felt ropes, watching from home on my TV, looking at all my eyes can see. They tell me I view obsessively.